You all remember Brian Holdsworth, right? I think he's a Catholic apologist, pretty sure. Catholic, who has various religious takes on things and such, I guess. This is a great intro. I'm doing great. Anyway, he's talking about how transgendered stuff is a religion. And we're going to take a listen and see what he has to say about. Now, by the way, before I get started with this, I do want to give my thoughts on something. Anytime that, like, you hear a religious person call like transgenderism, quote unquote, or like wokeness, quote unquote, a religion, it is a very calculated move toward their audience, because what they're trying to do, because their audience already hates other religions, right? They hate Muslims, they hate Jews typically, they hate any, like, God forbid you're like polytheistic. They really hate that, right? They hate other religions. And so calling it a religion gives them more leverage to attack you, right? So that's why they do it. And they also do it because they try to, like, they think that it gets under our skin, right? Like we're the atheists or whatever, because they call atheism a religion too. What they're trying to do is declare war on you. That's what they're trying to do. They love holy wars. So that's kind of the angle they're getting at. Anyway, let's see what, you know what? I'm willing to hear people out. Brian Holdsworth has not impressed me so far, but let's see if he does this time.
Gender dysphoria occurs when someone suffers distress at the inconsistency between their body and their self-perception as being a gender that is different from what their body portrays.
That's fair.
So, for example, you could have someone for whom everything that can be observed about their body tells us that they are male, from their reproductive organs, their bone structure, even all the way down to every cell in their body. But this presentation...
Everything that you see does not include every cell in their body. You can't see their DNA, man. That's bullshit. Or their bone structure. I was willing to let that slide, but let's talk about that. Like your bone structure, really? No, I'm sorry. People get this idea that there are typicalities, right? General, there is a typical bone structure that occurs with males and with females, right? But it's not set in stone, and archaeologists themselves often have difficulty determining whether somebody was male or female based upon their bone structure. And I will add, your bone structure is the same when you're prepubescent. Postpubescent is when it really starts to shift between male and female. That's when the dimorphism occurs. So if you get on puberty blockers, followed by hormones of your choosing, then you can effectively have the bone structure, the skeletal structure of the sex that you choose. But conservatives don't like that because, you know, like that's bad for some reason, I guess. Just throwing that out there.
Would stand in sharp contrast to their own perception of themselves, which in that case would be female. And when people experience this kind of productive organs, their bone structure, even all the way down to every cell in their body.
I got that.
But this presentation would stand in sharp contrast to their own perception of themselves, which in that case would be female. And when people experience...
Wait, but like, okay, so it sounds like we're already going the direction of like trans women. Because they love attacking trans women and then just pretending trans men don't exist. Or if trans men do exist, they're like little birthday boys that just like need help, right? Like, or they consider them like little girls, right? That have been like inducted into this poisonous theory, you know? But they love to attack trans women.
This kind of disparity, you'll often hear them say things like, I was born in the wrong...
Guaranteed he will not bring up trans men. If he does, I will literally... drink water.
Wrong body. Their body communicates one thing, but something to them more substantially true about themselves is incompatible with that body. So either their body is wrong or their self-perception is wrong. But either way, it's a big claim that they are making. And it has serious implications for society, as we've already seen. This isn't just a private personal matter when elite athletics are thrown into disarray, when medical resources...
Elite athletics thrown into disarray, right? When a trans woman wins, this is Leah Thomas, by the way, when a trans woman ties for 5th place. Oh no, we're throwing athletics in a disarray with 10 trans athletes in the NCAA. Athletes! Not even any specific sport, just athletes. In all sports, there are we just went over this earlier, there are over 500,000 athletes in female sports in the NCAA. 10 of them are trans. Do the math.
elite athletics are thrown into disarray, when medical resources need to be allocated for treating either the body or the mind, when
What medical resource? Like, we have plenty. There's no shortage of medical resources because of trans people. That's bullshit. They make up like 1% of the population. Shut the fuck up.
professional policies dictate that we have to introduce ourselves by this internalized gender, since it might be inconsistent with
Respect people's gender. If you call a woman a man, that's rude as shit. You know that. You know that, okay? I have accidentally misgendered women before. Cis women, okay? Mind you. It's happened like twice in my life. I called her sir. I said, hello, sir, how are you? She said, it's ma'am, actually. She was used to it. I said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. She said, it's fine. And then I was a server at the time, and then she went on with her order because I said, I'm sorry, my bad. Like, that's how a normal mistake between recognizing somebody's gender works. I didn't sit there and be like, well, actually, I've determined by the angulature of your skull shape that you are in fact a male person. Like, no, that's stupid and weird, and I would never do that, unlike some people.
our external appearance. And the list just keeps going on and on. We end up having to participate in this understanding of human sexuality. And since those are the implications, I think everyone has the right to say, you know, how do I know that your claim is correct? When you say I'm born in the
You don't. No, you don't. Pull your pants down. Dick check. Gonna have to see your genitals. I have the right to know. Pull your pants down.
wrong body.
Like, no, you don't have that right.
Is there some way that this can be verified for me so that I can understand what that means? And
Like how? How? Hold on. Verify. Sorry. Let me replay that.
you know, how do I know that your claim is correct? When you say I'm born in the wrong body, is there some way that this can be verified for me so that
They say they're a woman, like if they're a trans woman. Just go with that. Say, oh, okay. You don't question it for cis women. You never question it for cis women, but when it comes to trans women, you question it. Why? You don't like just go with it. What's the problem?
I can understand what that means? And the person
You're complicating
in reply
things needlessly.
might say, well, I just told you. Why isn't that enough? Why isn't my testimony or my
Great
lived
question.
experience enough of the evidence that you need?
You don't need evidence.
Because we live in a scientific age, right? Don't we?
Oh, off. You are a Catholic. Science my ass. Okay? Science my you don't care about science in any regard. How do you feel about climate change? How do you feel about evolution? Huh? I would love to know. Maybe he'll answer that in this video about evolution. You know, like you don't care about this is a worthless virtue signal towards scientific evidence or whatever. Like you do not give a shit about science. Don't even bring that up.
I can't count the number of times someone has told me to trust the science, or that scientific consensus tells us such and such, therefore it's true. And what is modern science?
Scientific consensus tells us that trans people are far better off living as their preferred gender.
It's based on the idea that you don't adopt a certain truth claim without verification. It needs to be independently confirmed through observation or empirical measurement. That's what the modern physical sciences insist on. Rene Descartes, one of the fathers of modern science, said, quote, if you would be a real seeker after truth, it is necessary that at least once in your life you doubt, as far as possible, all things. And then Francis Bacon, who was another leading thinker credited for instigating the scientific revolution, said, if a man will begin with certainties, he shall end in doubts. But if he will be content to begin with doubts, he shall end in certainties. Now, I don't agree with Descartes.
I disagree, by the way. Yeah, I'm with him on this. I disagree. If you begin with doubts, you usually end with more doubts. Like, okay, the world's best scientists and most brilliant minds understand that the more you learn, the less you know. You guys know what I mean by that? Like, I'm in my psychiatric nurse practitioner license program, my PMHNP, and what I learn is that the more I learn about the brain, the less that I actually know about the brain. Does that make sense? Like, I thought I knew stuff. You can think you know stuff about the brain, but you don't actually know stuff about the brain. Like, we just think some of the things that we know. But what you don't know is how much we don't know. Like, we don't know a lot about the human brain.
Descartes or Bacon.
Just throwing that out there.
But I am told that this is what it means to be a scientifically minded person. I certainly have heard it countless times as it relates to questions of religion or God's existence. So if we really are a scientifically oriented civilization, as people keep insisting that we are to me, there should be nothing amiss in us expecting that some novel claim of truth be put through that kind of scrutiny and skepticism. What's the evidence? Where is the proof that a person is born in the wrong body?
Do you believe in a society with happy people who are fulfilled and live their lives with the maximum amount of, what's the word I'm looking for? Maximizing their, I'll just say satisfaction. Maximizing their satisfaction, because that's what accepting trans people does. It maximizes their satisfaction. They live more satisfactory lives, okay? They have better outcomes when you accept them as who they are as trans people.
That their true self,
We
their,
have scientific
their true
evidence for that.
identity is contrary to.
By the way, I also want to point out, science is useless to us unless it actually progresses us as a species and makes people's lives better. Guess what makes people's lives better? Accepting trans people for who they are.
What their body, the physical evidence communicates. Because if our professional, medical, governmental, and educational institutions are expected to rearrange themselves to affirm and accommodate this claim, then it must be grounded in something factual and objective, the kind of thing that is necessary for community consensus. But as soon as we start asking for some kind of verifiable evidence, we're met with silence. There is none. There is no proof.
I just gave it to you. Wait, hold on. Like, I won't even look it up. All you have to know is that accepting trans people makes their lives better. Do you need more? Do you need more? Like, it just makes their lives better. It makes them more productive. It makes them, like, even, let's take the humanity out of it, right? Let's take the respect element out of it. Like, let's pretend that we don't care about being nice or like humane to human people, right? We just don't give a shit about that. A trans person who is not struggling with gender dysphoria is far more productive than a trans person who is, okay? A trans person who, let's say you're a trans woman and you don't get the care you need. You go through puberty and you don't have puberty blockers or estrogen. You don't have any of that. So you grow up body hair, you grow a beard that you have to shave every day. You grow like a male structured skeleton, whatever. Like, that sucks, that sucks. And it gives you depression. It makes you a less productive member of society. It makes society worse. By being transphobic, you are making society worse. Not just because you're not, being all feely, whatever, like we have to accept the trans people. No, I'm telling you, they're not as productive citizens. They can't give back to the community as well because they're depressed as shit and anxious and often suicidal. That's bad, okay? If you want a well-functioning, productive workforce and members of society, then you should be trans positive, okay? It just makes sense.
That this gender identity,
it's not about feelings. It's not even about feelings.
Observable, measurable reality, except for that person's feelings. They feel that way.
I just disproved that.
They feel that they are female, even though everything that can be observed about them says that they are male. And those feelings should be enough, we're often told. But as soon as...
Trans women can lactate, by the way. Like, if you give them hormones, they can end up like growing breasts and lactating. And they can have genital surgery. For all intents and purposes, they have a vagina. Like, what do you mean? Alex Kansani, a supermodel, transgender. The observable evidence tells me that she is a woman. What more do you need? Is this a woman or a man? Like, hello? Pretty obvious to me. This isn't complicated, man.
As we settle on that as the essential piece of evidence the whole claim rests upon, I would say that we run into a massive, massive contradiction, because feelings, our emotions, those are caused by the biochemical systems of our bodies. Our emotions are contingent upon our bodies. But we've just been told with respect to sex and gender, a person who is trans or experiencing gender dysphoria has a body that is wrong. It's conveying a sex that is wrong and in need of correction. But it's the same body that is producing those feelings. A body which has now been
Okay, let me dispel something. There are tons of people, both cis and trans, who experience gender dysphoria, okay? Like, there are tons of people. Okay, so let's take a young man who grows breasts, right? It's called gynecomastia. Okay, I bring this up a lot in my trans debates because gynecomastia involves the growth of breast tissue on young male individuals who identify as boys, okay? So they're men. They're not men, they're boys. They're like 15, 16, they grow breasts, okay? And typically, unless they happen to turn out trans, or some of them like some of them like their bodies, and that's totally valid and fine. But most of them don't, because they've been socially conditioned, as we all are, that women have breasts and men don't, okay? So they end up growing breast tissue, and guess what we do? We lop them off, We get rid of the breasts. Okay, and we're fine with that, right? But the feeling that young men get when they look in the mirror and see breast tissue when they have gynecomastia is gender dysphoria. It's the same thing, okay? So you can say, like, they're born in the wrong body, or their body's not correct or whatever. But I'm sure if I were to ask him point blank, hey man, how do you feel about breast reduction surgery for young men who have gynecomastia? He'd be fine with it. He'd be totally fine with it, He wouldn't say that was the wrong body or whatever. Like, this is all double standards 100% throughout. Like, it's just, you just hate trans people, man. You just do not like trans people.
Diagnosed
That's
as
all it's about.
wrong. If that body is wrong, how can we trust the feelings that it produces? Either the whole biochemical makeup of this person needs correction, or it doesn't, and therefore their psychology and self-perception needs correction. Now, maybe at that point they might say,
trust me, trans people get plenty of therapy. Don't worry about it.
this is way more
You just want them to get conversion therapy is what you want. You want to torture them into submission is what you
than
want.
feelings. This is something I experience within the deepest aspect of my being and nature, perhaps within my soul even, something that transcends the body and the physical form. But the only thing that can transcend the body is something of a spiritual nature, something like a soul. But if we're going to make that claim, then we've gone beyond the standard approach to objective inquiry.
No. If a trans woman, like if a trans girl who's like 13 starts developing like body hair and a beard and shit like that, like they start to go through male puberty and they feel like they look in the mirror and they don't like that doesn't indicate that there's a soul. That's not going beyond science. That is science. Okay? Feelings exist. Whether or not you believe in the soul, feelings exist, and we can scientifically measure those, okay? Like in some capacity, that people have them or are experiencing them. It's called a subjective assessment in the medical field. All right? This doesn't prove a soul. This doesn't mean that there are things that are outside of a physical realm. In fact, you can literally put it this way. Like, you see a visual stimulus in the mirror that creates feelings of negativity in your brain. Okay, the visual stimulus is feeding signals to your brain that results in a release of neurotransmitters that give you negative feelings. That's a very oversimplified way of putting it, but that's basically what's happening. So there is a physical element to it. None of this proves a soul. You're just bullshitting.
Which is the scientific standard. We've gone into this.
Yeah, that's another thing. Don't trans people have to get therapy and a letter signed by a psychiatrist in order to transition? Yeah, the loopholes that trans people have to go through in order to get their trans care is ridiculous. It's insane. Like, they're already getting therapy, man. Shut up.
Spiritual and the religious. And so what a person in that case is fundamentally claiming is something of a religious nature. Now, we live in liberal democratic times, right? For the most part, I think, which means that we are promised
Hit me with a
religious
guitar
freedom.
rocker.
And if a person wants to adopt a religious belief that says the most fundamental aspect of the human person is invisible, it's an incorporeal soul, and it is entirely...
The most fundamental aspect of the human person is invisible. What do you mean the most fundamental aspect? Did I miss something? You mean the dick? What do you mean the most fun? What? What does he mean?
Is invisible. It's an incorporeal soul, and it is entirely independent of the body and should not be restricted by the body, such that if the body communicates something the soul doesn't agree with, then the body...
Listen, okay, if they want to say that transgenderism or whatever is a religion, okay, religious freedom, man. What's wrong? I thought we had religious freedom in this country. I respect your religion somewhat. I wish I didn't have to, but you get tax exemption, maybe gender. Okay, so if transgenderism is a religion, tax exemptions for trans clinics is what I say, right? Because all religious institutions in the United States of America get tax exemptions. So hey, there we go.
Body should be held to be wrong and in need of correction if so desired. Well, okay then. And in fact, that isn't a very new religious idea. It's actually quite ancient. Plato taught that the soul pre-exists the
There you
body and
go.
is currently trapped in physical form until
Okay,
it will eventually
nerd.
be liberated through philosophical understanding and wisdom. He taught that the physical reality we experience in this life is only a shadow of actual reality, and that our goal should be to transcend the physical in order to achieve union with the divine in the most authentic reality that there is. And Gnosticism is an ancient esoteric religious system that believed that the physical world was corrupt, and that our goal in this life should be to liberate ourselves from it, which is why I can see a person with Gnostic sensibilities finding much to appreciate in the claims of a trans person who says that their body is wrong according to the perception of their soul. So, if the whole theory of gender fluidity is based on human nature being something more than can be seen or measured scientifically, and that this something more is like a soul trapped in an incompatible body, then it seems to me that what you're talking about is a religion, a Gnostic religion. But here's the thing. If it's true that we live in a liberal society,
Religious
then
freedom.
nobody should be forced to adopt someone else's religious beliefs.
We're forced to adopt Christianity all the time. This is bullshit. No. I refuse to accept this. I refuse to accept. We are forced to gobble up your God all the time. No. Shut the up. I refuse to accept
There
this.
is no state-sanctioned religion according to the premises of liberalism and liberal democracy. Religious tolerance, rather than imposition, is supposed to be the practice of the day. Yet, this apparent religion has been urgently adopted and taught in schools, both grade school and post-secondary. It's being promoted in our media. People are being forced by threat of job loss if they do not embrace Gnostic practices, like introducing yourself by pronouns that have nothing to do with your body. And
What do you mean pronouns that have nothing to do with... Dude, no pronouns have anything to do with your body. Show me the DNA segment that says that you go by he, him. Go ahead. Guess what? Back in the day, we called all children by the same pronouns. Okay? They all wore the same dresses. There was pronouns have always changed throughout history and in memoriam. Like it's always changed. Language changes. Like there's no all people. Okay, this is so complicated. You're making this so complicated. It's not that complicated. All you have to do is just respect the identity that people want you to abide by. That's it. It's not that hard. If you misgender somebody by accident, which has happened to cis people before all the time. Like I said earlier in the stream, earlier in this video, like I have misgendered people who are cis. Okay. And guess what? They correct me and we move on. It's not like they correct me and I go, well, I see that your jawline is angled at a certain angle and your breasticles are a bit lacking, my friend. And I see the penis bulge in your sweatpants, so I think not. It's like, dude, like you don't know that person, okay? What, are you gonna have them pull down their pants? Is that what you want? Huh? Like, let's talk about this. Let's talk about, like, the ramifications of your worldview, sir. It's like you're totally fine calling somebody she, her, until you find out she's trans. Once you find out she's trans, like, everything changes for you. Like, it's, oh no, like, I can't do that now, because then I'm succumbing to wokeness, or whatever the like, you're just doing it because you hate trans people. You hate trans people. That's it. That is the only through line that makes this work. You just hate trans people. End of story.
Anyone who pushes back against these religious doctrines are threatened with social denunciation, economic consequences, and even in some places, criminal proceedings. So it seems to me that we've somehow been duped into adopting
Jail
a religion
anybody
which has
who
taken root
misgenders,
in many, if not
including
all, of
me.
our most important institutions.
I should have served time for misgendering. You know what? 10 years.
They
Death
even
penalty, in
adorn
fact.
government facilities in its symbolism.
Fuck it. I don't
for
care
those
anymore.
of us who have alternative and incompatible religious beliefs, in my case Christianity, which believes God created the physical world as something good.
Okay, let's talk about your incompatible beliefs. Why should your beliefs... Let's say that transgenderism is a religion. Why should your beliefs supersede mine? Why? That doesn't make any sense. Excuse you, sir. Like, wait a minute. Are you saying that your religion is superior to mine somehow? Even if I were to abide by your stupid framing. Shut the fuck up.
And our bodies
You're not
as
special.
good and fit to be embraced, we find ourselves the subject of ridicule, of social and political exclusion, and often worse than that. And I don't think
hope
that
so.
in a liberal society,
You should be
the
ridiculed.
state should force anyone to endorse my beliefs or even concede to them. I don't think people should have to put their favorite Bible verse on their name tag or their email signature or their business cards. I don't think anyone should have to recite the Nicene Creed at the start of their workday. I don't think they should be forced to address people according to their religious identity. And I don't think my religious symbols should be hung
What a good
over
man you
government
are.
institutions,
What a good
and that
person
all of
you
its
are.
employees and citizens brought out to honor it as it's raised. But that is what is going on with the trans religious ideologies that are being forced upon everyone.
Hey, I'm a woman. Oh, okay. That's it. Nothing's being forced on you, man. Just believe people when they tell you you're a woman, when they tell you they're a woman, or a man, or other. Non-binary. Hey, I'm non-binary. I go by they, them pronouns. Okay. Guess what? You already call people by they, them pronouns. One person. Okay? Not even a group of people. You already call single people by they, them pronouns. You know when you do that? When you don't know their gender. You already do that. Oh, there was a person. They went to the store. I saw them at the store. Or maybe you didn't see them because you don't know their gender, right? Maybe you did see them and you didn't know their gender. What do you call them then? Let's see. You know what? Let's dig into this a little bit. Let's say that you see a person and you don't know what their gender is. What pronouns do you use? Let's say that you never learned what their gender is. What pronouns would you use? I'm curious. J.K. Rowling herself, the TERF extraordinaire, has used they, them pronouns in a singular fashion. It's not hard. It's not hard. You already do it by accident. You just don't realize it. Again, this is just hating trans people.
It is an
That's all it
ism
is.
in the truest sense of being a cult religion. It has all the hallmarks of a cult religion. It has pageantry and performance.
Unlike
It has
Christianity.
rituals. It has creedal statements that people are expected to recite. It enforces severe forms of social isolation for dissenters. It wedges itself between adherents and their families. It speaks of salvation, that unless
What?
people, children included, have access to its sacraments, they will suffer greatly or even be
Sacraments, meaning medical care. Like, you know, scientifically proven medical care that you're now calling sacraments. Shut the up.
lost.
Shut up.
This is a matter of
Why do you
life
want
or
trans
death
kids to
for
kill themselves? Here's a question for you, Brian Holdsworth. Why do you want trans kids to kill themselves? Because you do. You do. And if you don't, prove it. Say that gender affirming care is good. Otherwise, you want trans kids to kill themselves. That's pretty f***ed up.
but with no way to verify the veracity of that claim. And in fact, multiple studies have shown that gender affirming
Sacraments.
care does
Fuck off.
nothing to improve mental health outcomes. One massive
False. You are wrong. Wrong. Brian Holdsworth, you are a liar. Fuck
study
you.
that showed that puberty blockers in kids does not improve their mental health was
Show me the
suppressed
study.
by one of its researchers, Dr. Joanna Olson Kennedy.
Doctor, hold on. Let's look it up. Researchers' fears of weaponized data reignite focus on puberty blocking drugs for transgender youth. By the way, this is a valid fear, and I'll prove it to you right now that it's a valid fear to have for researchers who are trying to study this shit. Because every time a study comes out that you can even slightly interpret it in a negative fashion for trans people, transphobes latch onto it like leeches and they won't let go. Okay, they dig their gritty little claws into it and they just won't let it go. I'll give you an example. There was a study. So if you want an example of like why some researchers for trans care don't publish their studies for fear of politicization, here's a great example. Stats for gender. New study. Gender-affirming surgery is associated with increased risk of mental health issues. Study of 100K plus patients found that those with surgery had significantly higher rates of depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, and substance use disorder versus matched controls without surgery. Now, here's my counter to that. This study does not take into consideration whether the people who didn't get surgery even had a desire for it. Guess what? Some trans people don't want surgery. And usually those people don't have as many mental health issues because they're more fine with how they look than people who do want surgery. That makes total sense. We also have data which measures this aspect more specifically. Let's take a look, shall we? Undergoing one or more types of gender-affirming surgery was associated with lower past month psychological distress, past year smoking, and past year suicidal ideation. Conclusions and relevance. This study demonstrates an association between gender-affirming surgery and improved mental health outcomes. These results contribute new evidence to support the provision of gender-affirming surgical care for TGD people. So in case you're wondering why people who study this shit are sometimes afraid to release the results of their study, this is why. Because like you, okay, Mr. Brian Holdsworth over here, trans expert, by the way, decide to misinterpret the results because you hate trans people and you want them to kill themselves. That's why.
Because it yielded evidence that didn't align with her ideology. Just the other day, not far from where I live, a person who is clearly an adherent of this Gnostic religion attacked their children with a knife, stabbing one.
You just did it. Okay, great. They, them pronouns. They, them pronouns. Was it that hard?
Gnostic religion attacked their children with a knife, stabbing one and severing the esophagus of another who is reported.
Why are we bringing up like assault right now? What? Okay. Yeah, non-binary people can be shitty people too. They're people. Even if this is true, which I don't believe you, by the way. You're a scum piece of shit and I don't believe you. But let's say that it is true. Show me the data on how many crimes are committed by non-binary people.
Reportedly 8 years old and has a very long and difficult recovery in hospital ahead of them. This suspect was charged with aggravated assault, somehow not attempted murder, then brought before a judge and immediately released.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
Weeks from now, they
nope, this
posted
is bullshit.
on social media that they were sorry, and that as a resolution of the whole affair, they said, "I'll just take my space and do my therapy," as if that's the only consequence that should bear upon this situation.
Post proof. You're a lying son of a bitch. Sorry, post proof or it didn't happen.
Of course,
I don't
there's a
believe
publication
you.
ban on the story because we don't want to jeopardize members of the official state religion. They were also apparently streaming themselves playing video games on YouTube the very next day. Now, I'm not an
wait. If they were streaming on YouTube, then they should be a very easy person to point out. Okay, I'm calling you out, Brian Holdsworth. Prove it. They were streaming video games to YouTube. Show me their profile. Prove it. Picture it didn't happen. Exactly.
Advocate
Prove it.
Or an adherent of liberalism as a philosophy. I don't think liberty is our highest good, because when liberty is given a higher esteem or priority than sanity or virtue, we risk indulging insanity, which is apparently the phase that we've now arrived at as a liberal society.
Unlike Christianity, which is a completely sane and normal thing, right? Believe in our God, who is all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-loving, who gives kids cancer, by the way. Believe in him, or else you will burn in hell. And praise him and worship him, even though he gives kids cancer, which he does. And he created, but believe in him and worship him, or else you will be damned to hell for eternity. That's totally fair and sane, right, man? Right, Brian? Right, buddy?
And
right?
We no longer possess the moral
I hate this guy.
fortitude to even protect
Have I mentioned
children who are victims of its effects. A religion that tells you that your body...
Okay, you know what? You know who's a victim? Trans children who don't get the care that they need because people succumb to ideologies like yours. Let's talk about that for a second. Parents who subject their trans children to electrotherapy on their brain, all right? Because they think that'll like fix their trans child. There's no fixing your trans child, you idiot, all right? It's called trans-affirming care, gender-affirming care. That's what it's called. It's well-studied, well-documented, and based in science, which you hate. So don't pull this, oh, I'm just following the science bullshit with me, okay? You.
Is incompatible and worthy of mutilation.
In case I haven't said it enough yet.
Deeper sense of yourself telling you that is one that
mutilation,
should
my
not
ass.
be tolerated by any civilized society. This is what mental insanity has always been characterized by. People who believe things about themselves and the world which are
This is his worst video so far.
People have always believed things about themselves, like that they are God, or they are Julius Caesar, or they're from another planet. And we knew that such delusions meant that a person suffering psychosis of such a magnitude is
If I could have surgery that made me God, do you not think I would get it? Like, if there was a magic pill I could take that could make me fucking God, of course I would take it. Yeah, I identify as God. Sure, why not? What? That's a horrible argument. Guess what? We don't have those drugs. You know what drugs we do have? Estrogen and testosterone. Guess what those drugs do? They basically make you the thing that you want to be. If we had a drug that could make me God, I'd take it without a second thought. What are you talking about, man? That's a horrible argument.
Critical need of correction, not affirmation in their illusions. But in this case, we've endorsed it, we've genuflected to it, we've raised its religion.
If I could say, oh yeah, I identify as God, and then take a drug that makes me God, what, do you think I wouldn't do that? What? I'm sorry I'm getting stuck on this, but like I feel like this is obvious. Like, yeah, take the God pill. What? Yeah, give me the powers of God. I'll fix this demented world with my own hands. All right? Make me God. All right? I'll give you free healthcare. I'll give the homeless people housing, unlike your God is doing. Where's your God at, huh? Your God's doing a shit job, man. Make me God. I'll make this world a paradise beyond your wildest beliefs.
Religious symbols over
give me
our
the God
civic
pill.
institutions, and we
I identify as
all
God.
heretics to fear for their jobs, their social standing,
night,
and
Queen
even
Laura.
their freedom in some cases, if they fail to offer their submission to it. That's why liberalism fails. Liberalism promotes freedom and tolerance.
I hate him so much. I hate
above all
him.
else,
I
until it
hate
tolerates
him.
something so insidious that tyranny becomes inevitable. Okay, thanks for watching. These videos and this channel are only...
I hate this guy so... I don't know if I can express how much I hate this guy. Like, before it was just I was having fun with him. Now I actively hate him. Just a disgusting piece of shit, Brian Holdsworth, you are. I like, just... And also boring to boot. Like, you're not even entertaining. How do people... Like, who the fuck is watching this shit besides me? Like, why do you have 159,000 subscribers? Who's watching this shit? You are boring as sin, man. Who's watching this? You're like not even fun. Like this is just like the worst shit ever. Like, yes, his point was literally, I don't understand how the brain works, so it's religion. Yes. Yeah, right now liberals are tolerating people like Brian, so that is bad. That is true. Yeah, sin's fun, okay? You ever tried drugs? Don't try drugs, but you know, drugs are fun. Legal drugs are fun. Okay, legal drugs are fun. Try legal drugs, like alcohol and weed in some states, but don't get addicted. So that was Brian Holdsworth on trans people and the trans religion. Gotta say, man, was not impressed. Oh, by the way, Brian Holdsworth, if you end up seeing this, I will absolutely have you on to discuss this, okay? I know I called you a lot of names, justifiably. I stand by all of it, but you know, hit me up. We'll have a nice little discussion about your fucked up views on trans people and why you want them to kill themselves. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more, hit the notification bell to be notified when I upload. If you enjoy my content, you enjoy what I do, I really appreciate any financial help that I can get. Go to youtube.com/AlecGunterTTV/join. You got some awesome benefits, such as seeing early videos, awesome emotes that you can use in the comments of YouTube videos, and a sweet badge next to your name. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'd really appreciate if you join. It is cheaper than the cost of a blowjob from your mom. So with all that being said, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.